With lower demand comes a decline in prices. In the minds of these forecasters who look into the glass jar, as it were, and come up with these forecasts, in their minds, what they're really saying is that as prices fall, we're gonna supposedly be flooded with properties. Hey guys, so London house prices are expected to fall by 10% in the next 2 years. Do you believe it? Come on, we've all heard this before, right? So for today's video, I really want to just unpack this topic. I wanted to look at why it's expected that London house prices are expected to fall in the next couple of years. And I'm also going to share my own perspective because trust me, I've been here before and I know many people, many of you guys have been waiting to hear the news that London house prices might fall. But hey, we're going to unpack it on today's video. Now I know London's obviously not the center of the universe. Many of you guys are watching from all over the world or from all over the country. So let's make this super fun. Jump in the comments and react to this particular video as you watch it. Tell me about what you expect will be happening to property prices where you're at. And I want us to just have fun with this video and just talk about property more generally, okay? If you're loving the sound of this video, I'd love for you to hit the like button, give me a reaction, show me some love for the effort that's going into the videos here on our channel, okay? All right, let's jump straight in. All right, so up on the screen, guys, is the actual headline. This headline comes from the Telegraph. And I got alerted to this by a friend of mine who said, listen, you need to go and read this article and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love for you to react to it. And I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video about it. Let's just have a bit of fun talking about it. So you guys can see what the headline says on the screen over there. Now, the background on this is that there's an organization called Capital Economics who have forecasted, basically an analyst in this organization has forecasted the London property prices are expected to fall by 10% in the next couple of years, compared to around a 5% drop across the country, okay? Now, a lot of you guys watching, some of you might have been probably doing this and going, ooh, cannot wait for those prices to fall. Because a lot of you have been waiting for those prices to fall, but I know from my own personal experience that, like, I'll tell you stories, but from my own personal experience, waiting for prices to fall hasn't quite paid up for a lot of people, okay? I have friends who have, basically, many years ago when I got onto the property ladder, a lot of my friends were like, nah, don't want to get on, the global financial crisis happened, don't want to jump on, I'm going to wait for it to crash some more, I'm going to wait for this, I'm going to wait for that, I'm going to wait for that. What happened? They waited forever. I bought, my property kept going up in price and I'm happy. Those guys didn't jump on the train and they were just waiting. And it never ever crashed to the point where they could get on and jump in. Could it be different this time round? Well, let's see. So they're forecasting a 6% drop next year and a 4% drop the year after that, making up a total of 10%. Now, up on this screen is another screenshot of the areas where they see prices falling, okay? So compared to the rest of the country, you can see there that in the southeast, they've put there 7 to 10%. It's what they see the drop being. They see that being almost the epicenter for all the fall in prices across the country. So the highest drop in price falls. Now, what's the background? Why are they forecasting this? Well, you all know, obviously, we've all been experiencing the cost of living crisis. Prices have been going up left, right, and center. Energy, food, childcare, everything you can think of has been going up, okay? But tied to that is inflation more generally, explaining why we've all been going through the cost of living crisis. But the Bank of England have made a move to start rapidly raising those interest rates, and it's currently hit 1%. The forecast is that by next year, interest rates will be at around 3%. Wow. Just try and imagine interest rates at 3%. So what these guys are saying, these forecasters, these Excel buffs, what they're saying essentially is that if interest rates go anywhere near 3%, then the peeps in London, the first-time buyers, all these guys who've bought with like 5 to 10% deposit, who are all hugging up huge mortgage loans, are gonna feel the pain. right? Because there's a massive cost of living crisis going on. But on top of that, there is now this rising interest rate situation. So what they're really saying is that first-time buyers are already, at the moment, spending more than 50% of their paycheck on their mortgages alone. In fact, I want to know if that stat's real. Jump in the comments and hit me up and tell me, are you a first-time buyer? Do you live in London? And are you spending around 50% or more of your paycheck on paying your mortgage, right? It'd be good to know. So they're saying essentially that people are going to feel the pinch to the extent that people are going to literally have to give their properties up. They're going to literally have to sell those properties. But on top of that, for the people who are then going to try and get onto the property ladder, it's going to be even more of a challenge. So what they're really saying, if we go back to almost zoom out to simple economics, is that at the moment in London, we know that there is clearly excess demand for property. As soon as the property shows up on the property market, boom, it's gone, right? Even before it shows up, boom, it's gone, right? So what they're really saying is that people are going to start feeling serious pain and they're going to be unable to finance their massive loans. And also, other people who are trying to get onto the property ladder are going to be unable to get onto the property ladder because there's a cost of living crisis and people are looking and thinking, well, I don't know if I can get onto the property ladder. And so therefore, with simple economics, with lower demand comes a decline in prices. And in the minds of these forecasters who look into the glass jar, as it were, and come up with these forecasts, in their minds, what they're really saying is that as prices fall, we're going to supposedly be flooded with properties. Now, I don't know about that, right? I'm going to talk about it. I don't know about that. I'd love to actually know what you guys think. I'll tell you what my views are as we kind of proceed, right? But before that, I want to just share another chart, which I thought was really, really interesting. This chart is the comparison. Again, the source is the ONS, but the Capital Economics have gotten this information. And again, I picked this up from the Telegraph, okay? And what they're saying here is that the house price to earnings ratio in London is well above its pre-financial crash peak. And if you look at that chart, London is the blue one right on top, of course, leading the pack when it comes to outstripping, when it comes to the ratio of house prices to earnings. You can see, quite interestingly, in 2022, it's sitting at over 12 times. Whoo! That is insane. When you think about that, 12 times is the ratio of house prices to people's, I'm guessing, average earnings, okay? And then you kind of look and see other parts of the country where that's happening. And you look back on that chart as well. Look at like 2008 and look at what was going on there, even when we had this financial crash, right? What we're seeing now from a price perspective is ridiculous, right? It's way above what was happening back then. Which makes you think, you might think, well, actually, logically, that would mean that there would be this humongous crash coming. And in fact, I'd like to actually know from you guys, what do you think? Do you think, are you like waiting for there to be like a humongous crash or prices to fall and for you to finally be able to afford London or, wherever you're trying to buy a property? It'd be good to know in the comments. Or do you think that there's not much that's really going to happen? Yes, interest rates are going up. Yes, there will be people who would struggle to pay their mortgages, but will it really cause a significant shift in the property pricing in London? And obviously give me your opinion for wherever you're living right now, whether you're in the southeast or even in other parts of the world, other countries and so on. It'd be good to actually hear your views. Now, what's my personal view? Now, I know for certain, come on, mate, there will most definitely be a huge shift in people's affordability. Because at the end of the day, everything comes back to affordability. This is what it comes down to when it comes to property and buying property and so on. So really and truly, the fact that interest rates are going up will cause a problem, a big problem for people, particularly if they're talking like 3% and potentially beyond, with all this trying to bring down the current level of super high inflation, okay? So without a doubt, people will feel a huge challenge, particularly for people who've bought at that peak at the moment where prices are really insane. And those guys who might have bought 5% deposit or 10% deposit will have quite a potential challenge being able to keep up with those payments, tied to in addition to other costs that are happening, energy, food, everything else. And on top of that, let's not forget, there's an expectation of high unemployment in the next 12 to 24 months as things just get completely ridiculous, okay? So without a doubt, I expect that there will be people who lose their properties. That will happen for sure. But will it lead to a 10% fall in London property prices? To be honest, I don't know. And I don't think anyone knows. In fact, nobody knows. Not that I don't think. I know for certain that nobody knows. Even the forecasters don't know, right? They can only make forecasts based on assumptions, best case scenarios, base case, worst case, best case, all that, right? They'll come up with certain assumptions and they'll put out a forecast. And we know these forecasts have been horribly wrong for God knows how long, right? And the London property market is very different to other property markets. It's worth bearing that in mind. And let's also always think of another perspective in that you look at the level of demand we have more generally for property in this country, and look at stats that came out more recently around kind of net migration and stuff like that in the UK. You think to yourself, well, would that lead to property prices falling? I don't know is the answer. But my best guess is that yes, there will be some decline, but would it be 10%? I don't know. What I do think will happen though is that people will do everything possible to pay their mortgages. So the bits we need to watch out for really is what people actually give up on in order for them to be able to afford to pay their mortgages. It could be that people say, I'm going to live without heating, or I'm going to live without other forms of luxuries like takeaways and holidays and all this other stuff. So I think the real casualties will be in other areas of people's lives. Because people know, not paying your mortgage is a pretty serious thing because that might affect your credit and all this other stuff. And obviously you risk repossession, which is a real thing that can happen to people and does happen to people, daily, So I think people will do everything possible to pay their mortgages. So, and by doing that, they do not sell their properties because it's by selling their properties that we then have potential, new units onto the marketplace and this potential that prices for them becoming a reality. So if I had to take a best guess, I'd say, well, actually, there will likely be a fall, a little bit, but I don't think it will be what they're predicting it to be, personally, is how I'm looking at it. Because I just think there's so much insane demand for properties in London. Now, you're probably watching this and thinking to yourself, Ken, what would you do in my shoes? If you were in my shoes and you've heard this news that, property prices might fall, what should I do? I would say this. Right. If you are trying to buy a place that you're going to live in and you're buying a property for the long term, what does a 10% fall in price actually even matter to you? Seriously, do your maths, check your affordability, put in a bit of cushion do some what-if scenarios. If this happens, if interest rates goes up by this, if that happens, do some scenarios. And if it makes sense on paper, go ahead and buy your house to live in. This is a mistake my friends made back in 2008 and also in 2012. My friends were just waiting. They were like, oh yeah, I'm waiting, time in the market, waiting for things to fall. Nah, did not happen the way they expected. And they waited forever, missed the boat, and eventually bought. In fact, I spoke to one of them during the lockdown, about a year or so ago. And he said to me, oh, you know what? Man, I'm now trying to do what you guys are doing, trying to pay off my house and so on. You made the right call years ago when you did not waiting for the market to waiting for this massive drop for you to then go in. You just bought and just went ahead. And that's the perspective. That's the thing I recommend to people as well. If you're buying a house to live in, just make sure that you build up enough of a deposit. Ideally not 5%. If you can have a bit more, it's great. But I get that some people can only buy with 5%, which is great. Buy your property and think long term, okay? Now, I would also add, if you can buy outside London, on the outskirts, in one of the commuter towns, about 45 minutes into London, even better, because you can buy it a lot cheaper and be able to commute into London if you want. Now, if you're buying for investment purposes, that's a whole different thing. Because for investment purposes, well, you're really only buying for a business case. So it really comes down to whether the deal you're buying, a lot of people who are buying for investment purposes are really going to be watching out for deals. They're going to be looking for cheaper properties, looking for people who are distressed sellers, people who are going to try and negotiate, drive a hard bargain. That's a whole different thing. So, there's no point even commenting on that because the people who are buying for investment purposes already know what the game is. They already know that like a recession presents opportunities and they're going to be in there trying to get those opportunities in the next 6 to 12 months, okay? But I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What are your thoughts on the expected fall in the London property prices? And I want to hear from you if you don't live in London. Like, just give a view. And also give a view on where you live, whether you are in the UK or outside the UK, given what's kind of going on with, the global rise in interest rates more generally. How do you see your local property market actually panning out? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. But more importantly, make sure you jump in the comments and let's have a chat. Because I think, given no one really knows, we can only offer best guesses, I think this is a really great time to have a dialogue about this topic as we enter a different phase in the economy. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. And as always, in all things, be thankful and seek joy. Take care and bye for now.